And we're in Deerfield Beach, electronically speaking here, with two of the three candidates in the District 3 race in Deerfield. One of Broward's oldest and most interesting communities. This is the March 11th ballot, and it's one of three races that people in Deerfield Beach will be deciding. With us today are Karen Shelly and Dan Shanetzky, who are running in District 3. It's a nonpartisan race open to all district voters. There's a third candidate in this race named Philip Bradley, who did send us a questionnaire, as did the other candidates, and did indicate a willingness to participate in this interview, but he's not here. So we're going to proceed without him. So thank both of you for being here today. I'm going to open with kind of a biographical question, and I would encourage both of you to be concise in your answers. We have a lot of ground to cover. Okay. But Karen Shelly, tell us about you, your life, and why you're running for this seat.
Thank you, Steve. 5 years ago, I would not have thought I'd be here. I'm running for the seat because I've really come to embrace Deerfield Beach. I've gotten involved since moving here in 2019. And I realize this is a way I can continue to contribute to my community. I have a background in public service and volunteerism, grew up in Northeast Broward. My two sons went to school in Deerfield Beach at different times. My two granddaughters went to school. And although I grew up in Lighthouse Point and graduated from Pompano, I never knew how cool Deerfield was. And it's just an incredible place. So I'm very enthusiastic. And the more I know about the job of a commissioner, the more I realize all the intangible things you can do to promote an area separate and above from all the formal commissioner duties.
All right. Give us one example. I'm sure there are 100, but give us one example of where you've interfaced with the city of Deerfield Beach on a municipal issue, you know, at a commission meeting or in a neighborhood association or anything.
Well, and there have been many times, because I didn't start out wanting to run. I started out wanting to get information and trying to make a difference as a citizen here. What comes to mind first, and it's probably not the biggest, is our strategic plan. And getting to know more about the city, I wanted to learn about our strategic plan, where we are, and get additional information. I haven't been able to get that. I've 3 times at commission meetings requested updates on it, and it just goes by the wayside. And so that's one frustration I have, and one thing I've been trying to get information, because we have a plan that a lot of time was put into, and we need to use that as a roadmap and change it as needed. And I have not seen that happening.
Have you run for elective office before?
I did. About 20-something years ago, I ran against Jane Carroll, who was a 28-year Republican incumbent supervisor of elections. I overheard her. She mentioned she wasn't running again. And I said to my friend, hey, am I crazy, or is this the time to run against her? And so I did. I was told by the Democratic Party that it was not my time. I got very little support, but it was a very close race. So that was my entree into me being the candidate. It's much more fun being the supporter than the candidate, though, I will tell you.
We don't hear the name Jane Carroll much anymore. I knew Jane very well, of course. This would have been when? 1992, maybe? When was this?
It was the year before the Hanging Chad, whatever that was.
Oh, okay. That would have been 98 or 2000 then. 2000.
So actually losing that race was God's protection over me, because can you imagine that being my first election as supervisor of elections?
By the way, both of you are challengers. You're running for an open seat. Karen, why is the seat open? Why is there no incumbent?
Well, Bernie Parnas, the commissioner, is the incumbent, and he's term limited. So it's an open seat now.
Do you support term limits for city elected officials in Deerfield Beach?
I personally do, yes.
Okay. Dan Shanetzky, welcome to this conversation. Tell us about your life, your connections to Deerfield Beach, and why you're running.
All right. Well, first of all, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for giving me the time. I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York. I moved down to Deerfield Beach in 2001. I moved down here because my mom was very, very ill, and I didn't have any incumbency, so I just came down to assist her. And when she passed away, I decided to stay here. I've been living in Century Village, District 3, 24/7, 365 days a year, full-time, since moving down here in 2001. When I was in Brooklyn, I worked for New York City Councilman Sam Horowitz. I was a legislative assistant, so I have a lot of government experience in the legislature. I moved down here because I got involved because during COVID, it gave me time for a lot of self-reflection. And I said to myself, you know, Deerfield Beach, I've been living here almost 25 years, a quarter of a century, been very good to me. What could I give back to my community? And that's why about 4 or 5 years ago, I started to get involved in the community in Deerfield Beach. And I've been very, very involved ever since.
Okay. By the way, before we go any further, as Karen mentioned, Bernie Parnes is termed out, the incumbent. Has he endorsed, is he going to be endorsing a candidate in this race?
Yes. Yes. Can I answer that if that's all right?
Yeah, go ahead, sure. Yep.
I've been working very, very close with Bernie Parnes for the past 4 years. I've been attending almost every single city commission meeting for over 4 years. Been working with him. We're in close contact. He's endorsing me. I'm also being endorsed by Broward District 2 County Commissioner Mark Bogan. I'm also being endorsed by the Broward Property Appraiser Marty Kia. I'm also being endorsed by the Broward School Representative Nora Rupert. I don't mean to go on and on, but I'm also being endorsed by former Deerfield Beach Mayor Peggy Nolan, as well as former City Commissioner Pat Matillo. So I've gotten all their endorsements, but Bernie is definitely endorsing me. He's assisting me. I ask him questions. He's mentoring me. He's doing everything possible to make sure that when I become commissioner, I can hit the ground running and serve the people in Deerfield Beach and District 3.
How about the outgoing mayor, who I think has been a pretty popular figure in the community, Bill Gans? Has Bill Gans, this is to you, Dan, is Bill Gans endorsing in this race?
No, I've had a lot of interaction with him these past 4 years. In fact, one of his suggestions, I took action on it. I just want to digress a little bit. One of his suggestions was that veterans need mental health services in Deerfield Beach. I'm a veteran myself. I was in the U.S. Air Force from 1983 to 87. I served overseas in NATO. And I basically went with him and said, is there any way as a veteran I could help? And he said, run with it. So I set up a mental health program within Century Village, working with the Veterans Administration mental health counselor, also with Congressman Moskowitz's office and State Rep Mitch Rosenwald's office. So I actually took one of Mayor Gant's suggestions and I helped to set up a program that's been very successful in Century Village. Todd Drotsky, I've been working very, very closely with him, and we've been helping each other out. He's the vice mayor that's running for mayor right now.
Right. Karen, this is a good time for you to tell our viewers if there are any notable endorsements you have in this race. Who's standing with you?
Well, this is definitely an election where people will have a choice because we're very different in many ways. I don't have the mainstream. One of the reasons I'm running is I don't like the tone that the commission sets in working with the citizens and speaking to the citizens, the nastiness. I think Bernie is very gruff and rude. I've criticized the mayor for being so pejorative to people. I really don't like that, and I think it turns people off. So no, I don't have the parade of populars endorsing me. I don't have the developers or the attorneys that work for the developers. I do have former Commissioner Richard Rosenzweig, former Commissioner Gwen Clark-Reed. They believe it's time for a change, and a big change in the way we treat people and the way we encourage people and listen to people. Government should be ground up, not top down. And so I don't have those endorsements. I do have one union endorsement I'm very proud of, and that's the Painters Union, the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades. It is the union of the government, the workers in our city. So I'm very proud of that. My great aunt was a union organizer, and I've been union through and through. So I am proud of that. And then I do have individual endorsements, but not the populars, the status quo. They all went to Daniel.
Okay.
Could I bring up something, please? And I didn't mention this. I earned the endorsement of the Broward Teachers Union. Very proud of that. I earned the endorsement of the Broward Fire Union. Very proud of that. And I earned the endorsement of the Broward Police Union. And it's
all right,
on
thank you.
programs. So I have 3 endorsements that I earned, worked hard for, and I'm very proud. Broward Teachers Union, the Broward Fire Union, and the Broward Police Union.
All right, thanks, Dan. Thanks for that. I'm going to ask you and I'm going to ask Karen, Shelly, both of you the same question as it relates to BTU, police, and fire. And I think you know this question is coming. Did those union bargaining units do an open screening of the candidates in this race, or did they issue an endorsement unilaterally without interviewing the candidates?
I'd like to answer that. That's all right. The Broward Fire Union, they outreached to all the candidates, and all the candidates that actually showed up. I know I was there. I'm not sure about my opponents, but I actually showed up. I was vetted. The interview process was about an hour. They asked me a multitude of questions, and I was able to answer them. And I was able to encourage them that I think I'm the best qualified candidate. For the Broward Police Union, same thing. I went down to their facility. It was about an hour interview process. I think there were about 5 or 6 different police officers in the union that were asking questions, and I fielded those questions, and I earned that. With the Broward Teachers Union, basically I had been going back and forth with the Broward Teachers Union representative for about a month. She vetted me, she asked me questions, and she also asked around about my capabilities, and so she endorsed me as well, the Broward Teachers Union. So all 3, I was well vetted, well questioned, and I earned their endorsement, and I'm very proud to represent that.
Okay, thanks. Karen, Shelly, did you get a fair opportunity to share your views with these unions?
No, well, before this, I reached out to the firefighters union, maybe in the spring a year ago, and he said, well, nobody's reached out to him, but the fact that I did meant something and I'd hear from them. I never heard from them. I did get a call from someone from the police union, and they gave me a 2-day notice on a screening, and I'm working and managing a condo. And so then he indicated he would be back in touch about another date. And then when I followed up with him, he said, no, they're not having any more screenings. I never heard from any of those organizations. Now, I did find out that there was an error in the email address that the city provided after filing. So I'm going to assume that somehow they got the wrong email address. Other people were able to find the correct email address. But I'm going to assume it was because of that, because I have reached out and not heard from any of them.
Okay.
Can I do something if it's all right?
Dan,
Okay.
we're going to move on, only because the clock is already starting to be a factor here. But I want to be as fair as I can to both of you here. So I want to switch gears and talk about an issue that was in our questionnaire. It's been an issue in the city. This is interesting. Deerfield has a 5-person governing board, city commission, but 3 of the seats could change hands in March, up to 3. That is, your mayor is termed out, Bernie Parnes is termed out, and Commissioner Todd Drosky is vacating his commission seat to run for mayor. Do I have that correct? So
He's termed out also, Todd.
oh, he's also termed out. Okay, all right. So you're guaranteed that you're going to have at least 2 new faces,
Right.
maybe 3, but at least 2. And what's happened in the midst of all this is Deerfield Beach has decided that it wants a new city manager. And the interim city, the outgoing city commission has decided to make Rodney Brimlow the permanent city manager. When there's a bit of a difference of agreement on this, and I'm going to start with you, Karen Shelly. You said in your questionnaire you felt that the appointment of Mr. Brimlow was, and I'm quoting, sneaky and rushed. Why do you feel that way?
Well, because it was obviously something they wanted to get checked off their list before they left office. I mean, that's what it was. They just pushed through, did it. I did strongly feel that the incoming commission should make the decision. However, the decision's been made, as we now have found out. And I have to tell you I felt we needed somebody from the outside. I think this town it's not a little family-owned business. We have nepotism. We just need somebody from the outside to evaluate the best use of our staff and how we can go forward, because I feel to a large degree we're pretty much ingrown. However, what Mr. Brimlow said after he was given that position, offered that position, really impressed me. It sounds like he's pro-employee. When he said the word servant leader, if he really means that, he's got my vote, because we really need to have something done with our employees. They need to be appreciated. They need to feel valued. And I don't see that either. I think the citizens and the employees it's almost as though we were there for the government. And meaning the top tier. And so I did think it should have been an outside decision, but now that it's not, I'm fully behind him. God bless him with this new information coming out of Washington, right, with the grants.
Yeah,
He's got a lot on his plate, and he's going to need a lot of support from everyone.
I'm going to call on Dan momentarily here on the same question, but staying with you for a second, Karen, can you give me just one example? What's an example of nepotism in Deerfield Beach city government?
So both family and political nepotism. And I really don't want to start naming names. Obviously, we see who's supporting who in this race, but it's just like this city, this is one complaint I have about it. It's run like somebody's private business, private family business. And I'd like to change that.
Is there at City Hall and in city government among the elected officials, is there healthy respect for what we all know as the Sunshine Law? Is the Sunshine Law obeyed in Deerfield Beach, in your opinion?
I can't comment on that.
Okay. Dan, let me ask you first about, you did say on your questionnaire, you had no problem with the fact that the outgoing city commission made the appointment of the city manager, correct?
Yes, yes.
And you talked about how the city enjoys a very strong, healthy bond rating. Why do you feel the way you do about the city manager selection?
All right. First of all, I want to say that there are two members of the city commission that will still be there, and both of them are leaders. Ben Preston, who has a lot of experience on the city commission, and also Mike Hudak. So they're still going to be there. They're still going to show leadership. What I love about the city commission, it's very, very diverse. Each one of the commission members, as well as the mayor, very different backgrounds, very different ideas, but they all come together. So I believe that the present or the outgoing commission, city commission, is well equipped and experienced to choose the new city manager, which is what they did. Now remember, there was an outside HR department that was hired by the city to get in candidates. There were about 90 candidates initially who put in their resume. The HR department vetted through them and whittled it down. And they brought these candidates' names to the city commission and the mayor. And then they whittled it down to 4 candidates. And actually at the last city commission meeting about a week and a half ago, they discussed it. It was 2 outside candidates and 2 inside candidates. And all their qualification, they were given questionnaires, and all this was vetted to the city commission. So it was a long process, and a lot of thought was put into it. It wasn't slipshod. It was very, very fair. I went to that hearing. That hearing went to about 11:30 at night, and believe me, it was very, very fair. Each one of the candidates got a chance to answer questions, comment, and give a big give and take between the city commission meeting commissioners and them.
Okay.
So I don't think it would be in the best interest of the city to delay the vetting and hiring process. That's why I'm glad that we did it now. So the city manager, it's a vital part of running the city. And I don't believe that a gap in time between the outgoing and the incoming commission would be in the best interest of Deerfield Beach.
Okay.
I want a city manager that is well-versed in the city so that when the new city commissioners come in, we could hit the ground running.
Okay.
And I just want to throw out one thing, sir, if it's okay.
Dan, I respectfully, I can't let you filibuster.
Sure, it's all right.
Okay.
No problem.
We've got a limited clock here.
Okay.
All right. Let me ask you, Dan Shanetzky, is Karen Shelly right? Is there evidence of nepotism? By the way, what is nepotism? Nepotism is giving jobs to your friends and family members, whether they're qualified or not. That's my definition of nepotism. What do you say, Dan?
I've been going to city commission meetings for 4 years, and I don't see any evidence of nepotism. And I just want to say, nobody's related to me. I'm on my own, so I don't see any credibility in that. I feel that if there was anything like that, it would come out. I think Deerfield Beach is very well run, and it could always improve itself. Now, for them to get a AA bond rating, which is, I think about 10 years ago, the bond rating of the city was very poor. So for them to earn a AA bond rating, that the city is in good stead financially, and to have a large amount of reserves shows that the city is running very well. And I give credo and credit to the city commissioner and the mayor right now, the job they did.
Okay. All right, I'm going to stay with you for a second, Dan, on this question of how the city's functioning. Philip Bradley, the third candidate who's not with us today, said in his questionnaire, we've heard this from another candidate as well, this accusation, Deerfield Beach is spending astronomical amounts of money to replace its lifeguard stands on the beach and to buy whiz-bang, state-of-the-art, believe it or not, garbage cans. I've discussed this with the outgoing Mayor Bill Gans. Dan, is Deerfield Beach overspending for its lifeguard stands and garbage cans?
Okay, now you have to remember, and I spoke about this at a city commission meeting. They came up about 2 years ago. The lifeguard stands is something very vital for our workers. It's a safety factor. The lifeguard stands, they have to be built as state-of-the-art as possible. And I want to make sure that any employee of Deerfield Beach, whether it's fire, police, lifeguard, EMS, has the best facilities to work to serve the public. I don't want to scrimp on anything. So these lifeguard stands, these lifeguard facilities should last for decades. And if we have cheaply run garbage, the environment is going to knock it down and we're not going to get the best service. So I'm very, very adamant that we have to have the best facilities for our Deerfield Beach workers. And I think it was done very well.
Okay, Karen Shelley, do you know anything about this? Is Deerfield Beach spending extravagantly for things like lifeguard stands?
Well, I can't comment on lifeguard stands because as I've told the people that feel that way, and I've had some pretty strong words with them, if you don't know, have you seen the contract? What's in the contract? What were they bidding? Is it apples to apples? The same with, whatever the garbage cans are. That may not be a high amount. I don't know. Have you seen the contract? What did they look at? It's like people want sound bites and they don't want to do the homework. I'm a condo manager and people say, well, shouldn't that manager be doing this, that, and the other? I don't know. What does their contract say? And so people are opining about garbage cans and lifeguard towers. I don't know. I haven't gone to see what state of the art is, but I could see how you could put that much money into it when you talk about all the renovations and all the new technology we have. But the answer is, if you don't look at the contract and don't know the way they came to be, I don't know how anybody could have an opinion on that.
Okay, by the way, a biographical question. Are you still a condo manager now or formerly?
I am. I'm sitting down in a condo by Port Everglades right now, a high rise.
Tell me the name of the place where you're the manager.
Well, it's Runaway Bay, and it's
okay.
the coolest condo in Broward. I grew up down here, and it's
Sure.
right near the 17th Street Causeway, and it's an incredible place.
I'm digressing, and pardon me, but it's on a lot of people's minds, including a lot of people who are going to be voting in Deerfield Beach. Is Runaway Bay affected directly by these new assessments mandated by the legislature and all this, the overlay of new regulation and stuff?
Yes. Oh my God. The whole condo industry is, and I was teaching for Gold Coast schools, the pre-licensure and the continuing ed for condo managers. Now I gave that up in December because I'm going for the city commission job. I can't do everything, but we talked about it a lot. Very, very, every condo is being affected by it pretty much.
Okay. Dan Shanetzky, Philip Bradley, as I've said a couple of times in this discussion, Philip Bradley is the third candidate in this race in District 3. He'll be listed first on the ballot, by the way. Candidates are listed alphabetically.
No, I disagree, sir. They had a lottery and I won. I'm going to be listed first on the ballot. So I disagree on that, sir.
Oh, thank you for saying that to me.
Yeah, and I spoke with the Broward election supervisor. My name is first.
Okay, then I stand corrected because maybe my understanding of the law only applies to partisan races. In almost every other race, candidates are listed alphabetically.
There was a lottery in downtown, and basically my name was first.
And who drew the names?
It was at Broward government, I guess the Broward Board of Election Supervisor, their office.
Were either of you present when this took place?
I wasn't present. I wasn't present, but I immediately called up and I spoke with the supervisor there, and she confirmed it. In fact, I even have an email. So all the candidates should have that email as well, listing the order, and I'm the first on that list.
And I did not receive that email.
I followed up on it, and I made sure I received the email.
So who's listed second?
I
You
don't
know?
remember, sir, just off the top of my head, but I know I'm listed first.
Okay,
I was told that I'm last, so it would be Mr. Bradley is in the middle.
All right.
okay. Dan, it's an open-ended question. Mr. Bradley's not here to defend himself by his choosing. I'm not asking necessarily for criticism. I'm just asking for anything. Is there something about Mr. Bradley and his candidacy that you'd like us and like the public to know about him?
Well, I met Mr. Bradley and me and Karen, I remember, because we made a joke of it, that we met him for the first time about a few weeks ago, like a month ago. I had never seen Mr. Bradley before that at any function in Deerfield Beach. So he just sort of appeared. I didn't even know who he was. And in speaking with a lot of members that went to the city commission meeting, they didn't know who he was either. And now he's a candidate. Like I said, I've been very, very involved in the city for 4 years. In fact, I just want to bring up something, if it's okay. I advocated for the Deerfield Beach City Commission to adopt as an ordinance the SCRE, Senior Citizen Rent Income Exemption for long-term residents, which would save the residents money. That's something that I had brought to the commission, advocated for it, and it was made an ordinance. But in the answer to your question, I really don't know anything about him. I don't think he's been with the community that, or the city as well.
Same question to you, Karen. Shelly, is there something about Philip Bradley we don't know that we should know from your perspective?
No, pretty much like Daniel. I met him once. I understand he's an association president or has some background in community associations, but I do not know him.
Okay. I'm going to ask you both about this because it caught my attention, and you probably saw it on social media. But on social media in the last couple of weeks, there have been photographs of Mr. Bradley in a group picture with two other candidates, Dan Hers, who's running for mayor, and Chauncey Chapman, who is a write-in candidate in District 4. And in the caption, I think this was on Facebook, the three of them said they were going to be watching the NFL playoff games at a local bar in Deerfield Beach. And in that Facebook posting was this, and I quote, "If you show me proof you are a registered voter, the first beer is on us." Dan, do you know what I'm talking about here? Dan.
Yeah. I mean, I've looked a little bit, but
No, I'm saying, Dan, did you see it or didn't you see it? Yes or no?
I glanced at it. Yeah, I glanced at it.
Okay. Does it have any significance at all to you of any kind? He was
wasn't-
offering to buy free beer for people if they would show him the voter registration card.
The significance to me is this: city commissioner is a very serious matter. I had glanced at it. It just seems very frivolous and it seems very silly. So that's my opinion.
Okay. Karen, did you see what I'm describing, and what do you think of it?
I did see what you're describing. I don't think Daniel's on social media, but I'm on more than I should be. So
I know.
I think there's a problem doing that. I think you're not allowed to do that because a couple of years ago, I used to think, because I want to encourage people to vote. That's my shtick. I want people to vote and realize the power they have. So I'm thinking, well, on election day, people should say, show us your voter sticker and get a hamburger, and then I found out, no, you cannot do that and I don't remember, this was several years ago because I thought it would be a good idea. Then of course, every good idea can be turned to bad. So
Right.
yes.
I'll just say this, and this is a lay interpretation by me, but it is in Florida statute that it is a crime to offer someone, I think the word they use is an inducement in exchange for their vote.
Right.
Is that what he was doing? I think that's open to interpretation and argument. But generally speaking, I've found in 40 years in this state that candidates generally steer clear of offering voters. Now, we all know that judicial candidates hand out potholders, they hand out knickknacks, they hand out all kinds of stuff. That's legal. You can do that, So anyway, I brought it up because it gets into it treads on a gray area. It really does.
It does.
Yeah.
And I think we just need to be positive and go forward. So there are a lot of things that people have brought to my attention that are going on. And I just need to be the candidate and think of the future and not deal with that.
Go ahead, Dan. Yep.
Can I just say something? I remember, and it's definitely in the city commission, one of the candidates had gone up there and said, we should have a proclamation. The person actually read a proclamation saying, Deerfield should be known as Beerfield. and actually went up in front of the city commission dais in public view, and it's on public record, saying that Deerfield should be known further this day as Beerfield. So I just want to bring that up.
May I
that was
respond to that?
Yeah.
May I respond? Because that was me.
Oh.
So we have an event one weekend. It's Beers and Blues, or Brews and Blues Festival for the weekend. So again, as the citizen, I couldn't get commissioners to do this proclamation because I thought it'd be really cool. Let's make this weekend call ourselves Deerfield Beach. And they wouldn't do it, so I did it. And it was pretty funny. And I'm going to do it again when I get in office, only I'm going to do it officially from the dais.
Dan, tell us in 30 seconds or a minute, give us a demographic portrait of Century Village. Who lives in Century Village today? Age, race, ethnicity, and so forth.
Okay. When I moved down there in 2001, it's always been a 55 and older community. And it had a bad reputation, you know, that people moved to Century Village, so basically it's their last, you know, realm on earth. In the past 25 years, Century Village has become an extremely active senior citizen community. The Master Management Board, and I work very closely with Century Village Master Management, with Century Village Sen Club, with Century Village Cookville, as well as the other two communities. Crystal Lake, I work very closely with their HOA, and Meadows at Crystal Lake. I work very closely with them, see what their concerns are. But in answer to your question, in the past 10 years, Century Village has become a very active community. The landscaping, whereas before it was very brown, there wasn't too much money put in their facilities. The gym facilities were very poor. Now it's one of the best in the area. So
Thanks,
demographically, it's divided between a lot of people that are full-time there, a lot of people that are snowbirds. There's also a lot of younger people that they're renting out.
Okay, Dan, I'm going to interject. Dan,
Okay.
I say this respectfully to you, sir. If you're elected on March 11th, they're in for some very long nights at Deerfield.
Productive nights, that's what matters.
Dan,
Productive nights.
I'm gonna turn to Karen Shelly. Dan, this was not a trick question. This is a very simple question. You're going to be voting on a million things at Deerfield Beach City Hall. What is the current makeup of Century Village demographically? That was the question. You talked about landscaping. You talked about Cookville. Go ahead, Karen.
So Deerfield Century Village is much different, as Dan said, from when it started 50 years ago. We are roughly half and half, homestead, non-homesteaded. We do have more renters now. Some buildings now have opened up and allowed rentals. Of course, we have a lot of people from out of state, out of country. A lot of white people, demographically, a lot of white people, and the people that are living there year round. Very few Latino, although we have a lot. I was looking at the voting numbers to look for those demographics, and I find very low turnout in that.
Okay. Do you live in Century Village, Karen?
I do. So in 2018, I worked in the clubhouse quickly, and I realized how much fun it was. So in 2019, I moved here, and in 2020, I bought a condo there. Yes.
For you, Karen Shelly, it's ancient history, but it's still kind of relevant. Yes or no? Was it right or wrong for the folks at Century Village to have stopped the connection between I-95 and the Sawgrass Expressway for all those years? Was that the right decision? Do you know?
I think decisions were made we know Century Village in politics for all these years, and I think decisions have been made here for the wrong reasons for a long time. I haven't followed the history of that to have an opinion on that specifically, but there are a lot of things like not collecting short-term rentals, which I know isn't what you asked, but the taxes. There are a lot of things that are done for the wrong reasons here, in my opinion.
Dan, as you know, Deerfield Beach is just now with overseeing the Department of Transportation. They're just now connecting the Sawgrass to I-95. For the record, the Sawgrass Expressway opened in 1986, almost 50 years ago.
Yeah.
So Dan, my question is to you, was it right or wrong for Century Village folks and Trinchy and all their old leaders to stand in the way of this connection?
Well, I feel that they were trying to do what's best for the community, because the bottom line is this: the construction will happen. It's going to disrupt traffic for about 7 years. Now, the traffic at Hillsborough Military is tough now. So now when this construction comes in, it's going to make it a lot more logjam. So I could understand they were trying to push it or get rid of it. Basically, the rationale is that they're saying that this will maybe shorten everything by 5 minutes. So the question was, is it worth it? It's almost $1 billion to make this construction. There'll be a lot of disruption. Also, the FAU research project will be going on as well. There's going to be a lot of traffic. There's going to be a lot of snafu. So
Okay.
that's my answer.
I may have heard this from another city official. Has DOT decided to build a flyover, like one of those big circular ramps to connect them, or is this being done at ground level? Dan, do you know?
Yes, I do. There will be a flyover. And what's happening is a lot of the residents in Century Village, they're upset about that because they're going to look like Newport area, which is on the perimeter of Century Village. They're going to look out and they're going to see these flyovers over them. Also, they're putting up soundproof walls. You know, a lot of people are uncomfortable with having walls, you know, around their community, that they can see walls. So, and, you know, the noise factor, there are a lot of negatives against this, and that's why I think it was delayed for many, many years.
Okay,
But it's
fair
going to
enough.
happen. But we have to do our best to make the best of it, try to make it as smooth as possible, you know, to try to make it as good as possible for our residents.
I use the word flyover, and I know Broward County pretty well. I mean, a flyover, in my mind, is what you have there at 441 and 595, right? There's a whole hodgepodge of flyovers there. If you don't know where you're going, you're in trouble in that part of 595. Karen Shelley, is there a unit, a service, a function that Deerfield Beach must provide to its residents that isn't working properly and that you'd like to change and improve? It can be anything. What in Deerfield Beach city government is not working right?
I gotta say, I mean, there are a lot of different things that you could talk about. I really think what's not working right is there is the perception by a lot of people that the government does not listen to them. Our city government is not responsive to the owners. I don't believe that we give residents enough information. We don't take enough input from residents before things were done. So I would say that is the biggest thing hurting our city is the disconnect between the actual residents and the city officials that make the decisions.
Okay. Dan, the same question is to you, sir. First of all, is there a unit of city government that in your opinion isn't working, isn't functioning right? And is there this disconnect between the people and the people who run the city?
Well, I don't think there's a disconnect. Like I said, I've been going to city commission meetings for over 4 years, and during the public comment, anybody could get up there and say whatever they want, as long as it's rational and it's not derogatory. And the city commission and the mayor, they listen to it and they respond. So I disagree with that. I think the phone numbers of the city commissioners and the mayor is accessible. Their emails, I've emailed the commissioners and the mayors, and they've always responded. And I think they do that with everybody. So I disagree. In terms of an area that could be improved on, that maybe something I look at is code enforcement. Presently, right now, Deerfield Beach outsources their code enforcement to an outside agency. And at the last budget meeting, they had discussed about maybe making it in-house. And that's something that maybe we could consider. The great thing about in-house is that the code enforcement agents would be required to actually live in the area of Deerfield Beach. It's outsourced right now. A lot of these code enforcement agents are not living in the city. So something to look at, code enforcement, making it in-house. Right now, there's an amnesty program. The city had just voted on that, an amnesty program that, you know, the city would give a break people who have fines as long as they correct it, and they'll work with them. One of the things that I had looked at was from other cities like Coral Springs, veterans groups helps veterans who have code enforcement problems, helps them pay the fines, and also maybe helps them correct it. So that's something to look into, code enforcement. And when I become commissioner, I'll definitely make that one of my goals.
Tell us the name of the vendor or the provider who's gotten the outsourcing to do the code enforcement work. Who is it?
I don't have it with me right now. I did go to the budget meeting. I was part of the discussion. I gave feedback on that. I'm sorry, I don't have it with me right now, but it has been outsourced.
Go ahead.
Are
Doug.
you asking the name of the company that's currently performing it?
Yes.
It's Calvin and Giordano. I spoke over a year ago about this because I do believe there's a disconnect there big time. Even in Century Village, we see with permitting, we have very poor code enforcement responses. And again, they wouldn't necessarily live in the city, but and they could be the same employees that come to work for the city as far as I'm concerned. But I think when you're a government employee, I was proud working for the government. We used to think we were going to change the world, remember? And I think when you're working for the city, there's a sense of pride you have versus working for a company. It's just some psychological thing that I think would be a big change as well.
Okay. We're running out of time. Karen, I've got a question for you. Deerfield Beach, am I correct, is a city that's under contract with the Broward Sheriff's Office
Yes.
for law enforcement purposes? What kind of a job is BSO doing in Deerfield, in your opinion?
I think they're doing a very good job. I've seen some incredible work done. Inside the village, I'm not sure what the agreement is. I'm not as happy with their coverage inside the village. But again, I haven't seen the contract, right? So I don't know. They may be doing just what they're supposed to be doing, but I haven't seen that to know.
Okay, and isn't Mr. Brimlow, the guy who was just appointed city manager, he was the city's public safety director, making him the liaison with BSO, am I right?
Yes.
Dan, how generally speaking, briefly, how good a job is the sheriff's office doing in Deerfield?
I think they're doing an excellent job. I have a relationship, a friendship with Adam Hofstein, who's the BSO chief for Deerfield Beach. He's very, very accessible. He's very community oriented. I've worked with him on several different things. In fact, he had gone recently, Century Village had a huge Hanukkah event, and Adam Hofstein was there. So he's doing an excellent job. Almost every single commission meeting, he gives an update on what's happening with the city. He keeps everybody informed. And he also praises his police officers and his detectives. And I think he's doing a fantastic job. In terms of Century Village, I have a good relationship with Mark Kelly, who's the chief of the Century Village Security Department. They're very, very diligent. He's always looking to see what he could do better for the residents. I've been living there for almost a quarter of a century, and it's well known that Century Village is one of the safest senior communities in South Florida. So I think Mark Kelly is doing a great job.
Very good.
I'm
going to go back in time with you, Dan, for a biographical question. You said you were a legislative assistant to Sam Horowitz, who was a New York City councilman.
Yeah.
How long did you work for him?
I worked for him for 4 years. Now, this is going back into the 1980s. When I completed my service in the U.S. Air Force and I came back to New York, I got involved volunteering. And Sam Horowitz, his area was South Brooklyn, Coney Island, Sheepshead Bay, Brighton Beach. And I started out as a volunteer, and I was an assistant. He was on the General Welfare Committee, and I was a constituent aide as well.
Dan, you realize, I'm not telling you something you don't already know. You realize that some of your constituents back there in Sheepshead Bay, those people retired to Century Village. Am I right?
I know, and I've met a lot of people from them, and it's just great memories, and they remember me as well, so I'm very honored.
We're running out of time. I'm going to give each candidate about a minute to make a closing statement. A minute. I'm going to begin with Dan Shanetzky, and Karen Shelly will go second. I don't want to do this, but at the end of about a minute or a minute and 15, I'll start interjecting. So try to keep it to a minute. Dan, go ahead. You have the floor.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much. The most important thing, the past 4 years, I've been doing a lot of civic and community involvement in the city, and that's why I feel that I should be city commissioner. I participated in the SEEK program sponsored by the Broward Sheriff's Office and Kiwanis to provide job interview training for our Deerfield Beach High School students. I advocated for senior citizens for the SCREE program. I was the Cultural Affairs Vice Chairman. I got concerts for our parks as well as Brazilian Day. I'm very proud of that. I'm a member of the Deerfield Beach Planning and Zoning Committee. I voted for the new Holy Cross Emergency Room and the pre-K at the St. Mary Mercy Church on Military Road. I was a member of the Century Village Buyers Group, which got discounts for our Century Village condos. I also ran for Master Management Century Village, and I ran for for Cookville to be an officer. I'm director of the Keswick B Condo Board in Century Village, and I'm working with the Veterans Administration to make mental health counselors in Century Village. So it's not only talk. Dan does action. Dan gets things done. And if I become city commissioner, I'll do my best to make things happen, get things done, to serve the citizens of not only District 3, but all of Century Village. So vote for Daniel Shanetzky for city commissioner.
Thank you very much, Dan. Karen, Shelly, you have the floor. Go ahead.
I'm so bad at this. I always forget the 1-minute wrap up. I'm Karen Shelly. I'm running for this seat because I want to make a difference in this district and in the city of Deerfield Beach. I believe that within Century Village, we can enhance engagement between the seniors that live there and the population outside that wall. We have so many decades of untapped resources inside Century Village that can contribute to our city at large, that can contribute to the schools. I've been on the Education Advisory Board for several years. I'm currently the vice chair. It just is so frustrating to me that you have the wall with all that knowledge behind it. People who don't even have grandkids around here. And then you have kids outside the wall that need grandparents and need that knowledge and need that. And I think we can do a better job of connecting the two bodies, of integrating the two of us. I also think, as I said from the beginning, the number one thing we can do is we can make people know that their voice is important, that their vote is their voice, and that all along the way throughout the year, they need to provide input so that the city commission can take that information, develop it, and then go forward. It should come from the ground up. We need to listen to the people. The people should not always have things put down our throats. So it's ineloquent, and I need to get that one-liner for the next interview.
No problem. That was good. Thank you very much. We're done. I appreciate you both being here. Thank you for telling us about the upcoming League of Women Voters event. And I want to encourage both of you. You both sent us the questionnaire, so you've got my email address and you've got Dan Sweeney's email address. Between now and March 11th, a lot may happen in this race. The dynamics of any race change day to day. I encourage you to reach out to me because we're watching elections in about 7 or 8 municipalities. And so it's hard to stay abreast of all of them. But I appreciate your preparation, your good answers, your good questionnaires. Good luck to both of you. Thanks.